Shaun Robinson is with us. I'm obsessed with this woman because I watched you forever and ever on Access Hollywood. I mean, you were like my go-to for years.
Well, yeah, I was there a long time. I was there 16 years. I got there in 1999, before Facebook, before YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, any of that. Look at that. Oh my God, look at that picture. Yes. Can you believe it? Before social media, I was at Access Hollywood. So like when the stars had a movie or, where they were dropping a new album, they like had to come to us because that was the only way they can get their message out. Okay. Now, look at me in that little yellow. I think I remember that yellow dress.
You look
too.
So good.
I don't know where you digging these pictures up from.
We scoured the internet. Well, I told you I have to talk to you because your career has been unbelievable in Hollywood. When careers come and go so quickly, it's hard to stay on television. You've done that as a woman and with very little scandal. So I said, I need to know who your bone collector is because they're doing a killer job.
I'm telling you, got bodies all around me, and honestly, what is scandal nowadays? Is it really like, if there's one thing that is true in Hollywood, there's no such thing as bad publicity most of the time, because scandal, what qualifies as scandal these days?
I don't think anything, right? Not certainly back.
Not much.
Not back like when you consider 2000, 2004. And right. I mean, even, I don't know if you've seen the new HBO doc on Tiger Woods, because I was going to ask you, what was like the biggest story for you during that time on Access Hollywood? Was it like Michael Jackson's death? Was it Tiger Woods? Because I was thinking, I was a radio DJ, and I can remember we were obsessed with the Tiger Woods story for many reasons. His image was clean, all these things, right? What was like the biggest story for you that you were like, oh my God, no one can sleep?
I'm trying to think of what was, I gotta say that probably one of the biggest stories that I covered when I was at Access Hollywood was 9/11. Really?
That
is, and granted, that wasn't a celebrity story, but as a journalist, because I had a career in news before I got to Access Hollywood. And I think that was one of the reasons that I had the longevity that I had on that show, is because I had a news background and I was able to tap into that when those big stories did come around. And the news reporter in me kicked in during that time because we had to keep reporting. Even though, there was remember? It was that was a crazy, insane time.
Yeah.
But as a journalist, you were part of that. You had to get out there and still report. And we had to, it was a pivot back then. It wasn't, the red carpet or anything, but it was definitely a pivot. But I remember how 9/11 affected Hollywood. Remember, there weren't the big, the red carpets then, and were dressed down. They were dressed in black or muted colors, and it wasn't like, oh, hey, what's your next movie coming out? It wasn't anything like that. So I remember how it affected Hollywood and the business of Hollywood back then. But that was probably the biggest story that I covered.
Yeah. Oh my God. That went on for days and days, and all the, and then the celebrities like around that story. And it was, that was pretty wild. And of course, you're a Detroit girl, born and raised. My husband grew up in West Bloomfield. So
really,
I go back
gosh.
I love Detroit. I go back there, and so many damn talented people come from the state of Michigan.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah, Diana Ross. We got Diana Ross. And as a matter of fact, Diana Ross was my first big interview at Access Hollywood.
Really?
Yes, she was my first big interview. And when I went to interview her, I think I flew to New York, and I forgot why I was interviewing her. But anyway, her homeroom teacher years later was my English teacher. Okay. So
wow.
When in ninth grade, we were in class, and his name was Mr. Kraft. And he told us this story about how he had Diana Ross in his homeroom class. Okay. And so we were like so impressed. We were like, ooh, our teacher used to teach Diana Ross. Ooh. Yeah, that was like a big thing. But yeah, Miss Ross from Detroit, Michigan.
Oh my God, what a great like full circle moment for you.
Yeah.
I had also read, though, that you had a relationship, like a outside of work relationship with Aretha Franklin, that you two were friends. Is that true?
Yes. Aretha and I were friends, like 30 years. One of my first jobs in television, I worked in my hometown of Detroit, WGPR TV, and I had a talk show called Strictly Speaking. And we used to talk about relationships and just all kinds of things on the show. And she was a fan of the show. And there was a woman on who her name was Dr. Lynn Lewis, and she and I became just the best of friends years later. But Dr. Lynn Lewis would come on and talk about relationships, and she was like the go-to relationship person. And Aretha called the station one time and said she was a big fan of the show. She wanted to get in touch with Dr. Lewis, and she invited us to a Christmas party. This is back in like the 80s. Yes, the 80s. And she invited us to a Christmas party. We went to the Christmas party, and Aretha and I had been friends ever since. Yes. Till oh, look at my daddy. Oh
my God.
Yeah, that's my dad. She just showing a picture. Dad, and that was Aretha. Like anytime that I wanted to come to a concert, I would just text her and say, "Hey, I'd like to come to a concert." And that was backstage at one of her shows, and I took my dad backstage. He loved it.
Okay, he loved it. But I mean, Aretha had a career like you don't see anymore, and I mean, a diva through and through. And I mean, the voice transcended. I mean, everybody, black, white, everyone loved her. Did she ever give you any advice?
You know, I think what the advice that she would give, and Aretha wasn't time, like we would sit on the phone and have these conversations, and she was just meticulous about contracts. Okay.
Yes, I love this story about her.
Yeah, she was meticulous about contracts. Like, you know, we might, somebody might send us a contract. We might send it to our lawyer. The lawyer says it's okay. No. Aretha would take out a pen and go, no, we ain't doing that. Nope, we ain't doing that one. And that's a no. We're going to cross this one out. She would read every single line of the contract. And I never, ever, ever forgot that. She was about her business and about her money.
Well, I always hear stories, and here in DC, I know a concert venue booker who would say that you have to pay her in cash, and then she'd have this belt where she would put all of her cash and go out and perform.
Yep, or her pocketbook. She would come on stage.
I love that.
With her pocketbook. Yes, and have her money maybe to pay her band or whatnot. Yes, she did not play. Aretha did not play.
There's $85,000 in cash in her pocketbook up there while she's singing. I mean, oh my God, I love Detroit. I mean, Detroit, you can throw a stone and just find a great, actor. What is it about the state of Michigan? It's like New York and bagels. They can't make a bad bagel. It's like Michigan pumps out stars. What is it?
First of all, it's a hardworking Detroit, hardworking town, the Midwest. It's gone through so much over, the decades, and it's a resilient city. I can't wait till it's back on its feet after this pandemic, because people there, they're good people there, and it has had to fight for, many times an unfair reputation. Yes, there have been some really big challenges that the city has had, but there are so many good people there. And I am so proud to be from Detroit, Michigan. And my mom lives there, and I still have, brothers and sisters and cousins and friends who still live there. And it's just a great city. I love it.
Shaun, what has been your secret? Because you have had an incredible career in Hollywood. You came to Access Hollywood in 1999. Here we are, 2021. Now, I'm not comparing you to anyone else, but over the years, we've seen Julieta Rancic, Maria Menounos, other women in your field have not been able to pivot. So what is it that you've done, you know, because you pivoted from Access Hollywood, you know, you must have known sort of the end of that kind of news. I know, you know,
Yeah.
you know, you knew that was like, okay, this is fading. TMZ is going to be a thing.
Right.
How have you done it?
So, you know, well, thank you very much. And, you know, kudos to all of the women out there, you know, struggling and, you know, trying to make it in this business. So, you know, once again, I had a career before Access Hollywood. So I wasn't, you know, somebody who they just, you know, said, oh, okay, you can talk, you can string two sentences together. And, you know, I had a journalism career before I got on the show. And that was something that I always tapped into. But just, and back at 1999, there were only really two things in town, Entertainment Tonight and Access Hollywood. That was it. You know, the other shows weren't, in the celebrity space the way that Access and Entertainment Tonight were. So then, you know, now we're getting into social media. Now we're getting into TMZ. And you know, it got to a place where my mother didn't know the difference between TMZ and Access Hollywood. She really didn't.
She was like, oh, I think I've seen you on with this guy, Harvey Levin. You're like, no, wrong.
I think, you know, and I remember there was one, I was watching the Today Show and they were quoting the National Enquirer. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, so this is, you know, things have changed. And so, I mean, I had, you know, listen, I mean, I'm very blessed. I, you know, had a great career there. And I did a lot of cool things, went to a lot of cool places. I think if I had to do it again, I probably would have stayed maybe 10 years, maybe instead of 16.
Really? Yeah.
I would have ventured out sooner, and, you know, kind of explore. But, you know, since then, listen, things happen when they happen. And so since then, you know, first of all, I'm very blessed to do, you know, 90-day
Fiancé.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that eventually.
We'll talk about that.
But
also, you know, I started my foundation for girls, but also back in the entertainment space, I have, you know, 2 movies coming out on Lifetime that I'm executive producing. I have a role on a drama series, Games People Play, on BET. And you know, and then I have another movie that I'm executive producing. So I've got my hands in a lot of things right now. And with, you know, I think, and with 90-Day Fiancé, it's just, because it's a show that's seen in 168 countries and territories.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So it just, Sarah, I thought when they first asked me to do the show, you know, I'd said, hey, send me a link. You know, I looked at it. I was like, okay, this probably be a one-off. You know, I'll probably do a couple shows and whatnot. And I had no idea that it was going to grow as big as it. I didn't make the prediction. I wasn't the one saying, oh, this is going to be big. It's going to be big. And we're going to have,
You're
know,
like,
12 spin-offs. And
yeah, this will hold me over till I get
to pay the bills. Yeah. I did not make that prediction. I got to tell you, it just kept growing and growing and growing. And so, you know, here we are, you know, 7 years later, and it's like, wow. Okay. And then we've got the new show. And so I'm just really blessed. And I'm glad that I'm part of the franchise, because it is, you know, it's more than I ever imagined.
Do you think there's something to the fact that, you know, because a lot of these women, they were on E, and then they become the story, and you seem to be able to direct your career away from any drama. Do you think that's actually helped you? I feel like you've had a strategy, you know, it's a good one.
And once again, I don't ever want to be seen as, you know, critical of any of my colleagues, because everybody, like, you know, it's a very fickle business, very, very fickle. I think, and so, you know, got a lot of talented, hardworking people. I think, I do feel that when you make yourself the focus, that can limit you, okay? Because there's always going to be another younger, prettier, something star, okay? And people like new. They like new. So I feel like if you do the work, okay, if you do the work, you focus on the work as opposed to not being the star yourself, I think that gives you longevity. It's kind of like Sarah in Hollywood. You know, you got your Tom Cruises and your Will Smiths, okay. However, you've got a lot of people who've never really tried to be that. They just tried to be consistent in their work, and they've had the longevity in their career that many people who tried to be the big kahuna
end up,
and that kind of played out. Their brand played out. Their something played out. So. That and I hope that that's making sense what I'm saying.
It is. Totally.
I've never really tried to be a star. I've just tried to do good, consistent work. And I think that is what has given me the longevity. And if people in 168 countries know who I am, that's a byproduct of that. But I try to diversify, utilize all my talents, and say, like the 2 movies that I'm producing, I could have said as executive producer, I'm going to be the star. I want to play that part, but no, I want to be behind the scenes, and I want to learn this side of the business. So I hope that's making sense.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And you can see it in your career. I mean, if I had been you, I would have tried to sleep with John Legend like numerous times, I would have thrown myself at John Legend, being like, oh, I'm just going to use this career to marry someone famous in Hollywood. But you seem to avoid all that for the most part.
Well, so is the goal sometimes to marry somebody in Hollywood? Maybe for some folks, but not me. Not me.
Well, okay. What's your status? I mean, I think people know pretty publicly your past, relationship with Darryl and all that.
Yes. You mean my ex-husband?
Yes, your ex-husband.
My ex-husband. I don't think many people know that.
Well, actually, I have to say, they probably don't. And that story was crazy tragic. I mean, how it ended. And I know you two had been divorced when he was with the other woman in that murder-suicide. I mean, that must have been devastating, though. I mean, because that's so rare for that to happen. So when you got that call, I mean, that must have been shocking.
That was, and I think most people, and I've never even, this is the first time I've ever done an interview about it. Darryl, my ex-husband, a lot of people didn't even know I was married. They would go, oh my God, I didn't know you were married. But my ex-husband, we married when he was, we met in Milwaukee. He was with the Milwaukee Brewers. I was on a local television station in Milwaukee, and we, dated for like 2 years, got married, and then got divorced soon after, like about a year after. We were, listen, in divorce,
lots of things happened in marriages. Yeah, it's hard.
Things don't work out. And so we had not been in contact, for really since we actually divorced. We had not been in contact. And then I had gotten, it was on Father's Day. It was on Father's Day. And I'm trying to remember, Father's Day 2015. I think I got to make sure I'm getting my dates right. But I think it was Father's Day 2019, or maybe it was the day after. I think it might have been the day after.
Yes, I remember it was in 2015. Yeah,
it was in 2015. It was the day after. It was Monday. I was in Detroit, and I got I was looking on Twitter. I looked on Twitter. I was just sort of just on Twitter, and somebody had at me
wow.
and said, so sorry about Darryl. And I was like, that's weird. I was like, what are they talking about? And then somebody else said, Shaun, I'm so sorry about Darryl. And I was like, what is that? And so I searched Twitter for his name, and I saw what happened, that he had been killed. And I almost like dropped the phone. It was just shock. My body just went almost into shock. And so I was like, what the heck? And then when I read what happened, it was just horrendous. It was horrible. It was, it was absolutely horrible. And, a lot of people were reaching out to me because they had remembered us, because we were, if you want to call a celebrity couple, when we were in Milwaukee. And, it was just, it was just horrible, just really horrible. And God rest his soul. And, you
can't even think that would happen, and then something like that did take place.
Yes.
How has that impacted, now? Are you with somebody? Are you interested in being married? I mean, you are private,
Well, here's the thing. Okay. I'm going to give you the real on this. Okay. So my girlfriends, every time my girlfriends and I are out, before pre-pandemic, or if we're talking on phone, they're like, oh yeah, I'm dating so-and-so, and I'm with this guy, and how's the guy? Da, da, da. And then the next conversation, they done broke up. Okay. Yeah. And I said to them, every time my girlfriend said, well, who's Shaun? Who is it? I say, when I announce it, it's not going to be somebody that I have broken up with in two more weeks. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm like, here's the thing. I say, either you're my husband, you're my fiance, or you are just a friend. Okay. Those are three categories you got a friend in. You're either my husband, my fiance, or you're just a friend.
Yep. I love it.
Okay. So
when we'll know it's like serious.
Right. It'll be one of those other two categories.
Okay,
yeah.
Tell me about, and then we got to talk 90 Day Fiancé, because it is a phenomenon that people love. But what was, I have to imagine in your career, because you have been an IT host for many, many years. Was there ever a show like The View? Because I could see you on The View. I could see you on The Talk, on The Chew. Was there ever one of those roles you auditioned for, and how fate kind of like somebody else gets it, but you were almost that person, or you turned it down? What was the role?
Well, when they were interviewing, okay, I was a guest host on The View back when it was, and Barbara Walters wasn't there that day, but it was Barbara, Rosie O'Donnell, Elizabeth Hasselbeck.
Oh God.
And Joy Behar. It was that. I was a guest host. Let me just tell you this. You could cut the tension with a knife. Okay. You could cut the tension with a knife. Okay. I was like, yeah. Whoa.
I don't need this job. Yeah. I don't need this job.
I was like, whoa, buddy. So listen, it's a great show. It's, won so many awards. You definitely, you definitely have to, first of all, you need people on the show who can debate, go toe to toe about politics. Okay.
It makes it good.
Go toe to toe about politics. And I think they've got women who can go toe to toe about politics. And you have to I'm not that. That's not my thing. Now I will I'll get on the phone. I'll talk to my girlfriend. Like, can you believe that? Blah, 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 blah. But in terms of, that's what you need for a show. And I think they've got a good mix of people who do that.
They're great at casting it, now with Meghan McCain and Joy they do it so well, yes. But I think you've got to be willing to commit to that, a certain role, and that could also limit you, because it's polarizing.
Yeah. And I don't listen and here's the other thing, as a journalist, we were always taught to, walk right down the middle.
Yeah.
People aren't supposed to know if you're Republican, Democrat, where you stand. You're not, people aren't supposed. That's what we were always taught. Now, today,
I know
it's totally different. It's a totally different ballgame. You are, you have to risk, upsetting somebody to have a voice these days. I mean, I
know.
I posted on, I'm friends with Kamala Harris. After it was announced that they won the election, okay, I have a picture of myself with Kamala and myself with Joe Biden, and I posted that on LinkedIn, which is a business platform. All I said was, congratulations, President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. Girl, these trolls came out of the war. I was blocking people. Oh, there we go, right there. There we go.
How many LinkedIn friends did you lose? Because that's the biggest thing. If I post, and I struggle with this so much, Shaun, because I'm on the tail end of it too. No, I wasn't a journalist. I started in radio, but radio, I was on a morning show like Elvis Duran's morning show. And, it was like, don't talk politics, don't talk politics. Now we're in this world where it's like you have to pick almost to get a voice and a following. And I hate it so much. I struggle with it every day. And I'm like, should I go all in? Should I not?
Well, you can. Since you have, I think people would tune into you to hear what you have to say about, the day's events, Now on 90 Day, there are people who think one way and there are people who think another way.
Yeah.
Okay. And so as a journalist when I'm doing the tell-alls, I'm not supposed to be judging them. I'm there to do like this. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. But what about, you think that is my role?
Yeah.
But like back to that picture that I posted, I was just making a statement. They were president-elect. And then the trolls came out. I was blocking people all day long. Block.
So,
block, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, it's so nuts. I really hope that we can get to a different place in 2 years, Okay, 90 Day, like we talked about, is an unbelievable show. All right. We're on season 8 right now. Is the biggest question you get from people is, are these people doing it for a green card? Because every time I have somebody on, I just get these messages. They're doing this for the green card.
You know what? I can honestly say that of all the couples that I have interviewed, there was only one where I went, okay, I don't know what their true intention is. Only one.
Wow, Shaun, that's that's not many.
That's not many at all. Okay. So I think that okay, let me back up. I was in the airport lounge before a flight, probably about a year ago. And I was getting something to eat, obviously before COVID. And there was this gentleman that was sitting across from me. He had like a Wall Street Journal newspaper. He's reading, a real conservative looking guy, probably like in his early 50s. And so I was talking to one of the wait staff, and he peers over from his newspaper and he's like, "Your voice sounds familiar." And I was like, "Oh, he goes, "Are you a 90 Day Fiancé?" And I said, "Oh, wow. Yes." I said, "Gosh," I said, "You watched the show?" And I didn't want to be judgmental because I was like, "You watched the show?" And then he said, "Yeah." He said, "My wife and I, love watching it." He said, "It just shows you how people, the universal theme of wanting to find love."
Yes.
How strong that is. How strong that is to just.
Yeah.
He said, this is the universal theme of finding love. Everybody just wants to be loved.
Yeah.
And this shows you the lengths that people will go to just to find human connection. And I think, Sarah, that we can see it now during this pandemic, where we are, apart from loved ones and friends and all that. And we just want to hug somebody. We just want to be around somebody. We just want to be with our friends. That's what we want to do. So I would say, like, every a lot of times from the very beginning, we know the relationship isn't going to work out. You look at them and go, that ain't going to work. That ain't going to work. And then sometimes you think it's not going to work. There have been so many times when I said, this is not going to work. And it worked.
Wow.
Like David and Annie. I was like, this ain't going to work. Annie's going to go back to Thailand. David's going to keep living in the firehouse, and boom, it works.
And then it works. Has there been any other people on the show that have been like your favorites to watch? I mean, I say this like everybody that I interview from, 90 Day, but I'm obsessed with Colt and his mom. Like, I could just watch them have, Colty is like, I mean, I'm ready to subscribe to Colty's OnlyFans. I'm ready to see him in the bathtub. I mean, who for you over you're like, I don't need to see that shit. I've seen him on set. I don't need to see that. Have there been any characters for you that you love? And Larsa, I mean, Larissa there, I could follow her plastic, and that's terrible. She's had so much work done. Who do you like to follow? Anybody a guilty pleasure of yours?
I spend a lot of time with these folks when we're on the tell-all. I spend a lot of time with them. So I find several of them very interesting. I find a lot of them very interesting, but like Angela and Michael, I've just, it just like, I'm like, it's just like, wow. I like go, wow, look at y'all. Okay. Y'all, wow.
Look at
and you. I love Angela. I've been with her probably the longest in the journey.
They're a trip. Yeah.
Colt and Larissa, I'm glad they're not together, just because I would literally.
Oh my God. These two, I mean, wasn't it, that is a couple that was interesting to watch, but at times difficult to watch because she was almost like verbally abusive to him, and then going to meet his family. It was.
You're talking about Angela and Michael?
Yes.
Yeah. And I've said, and Angela knows, she says, Shaun, she says, I get really, really crazy. I was like, yeah, if you could just bring it down just a notch, Angela, and I really love her. She's like one of my favorite people. And she knows that she gets, she gets very excited.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's certainly a learning experience for all of these couples to have cameras following them constantly.
I know. Yeah.
So yeah, they all know they have something to work on.
What is the craziest thing that Angela has taken out of her breasts while she was on set? Because, she put cigarettes in there and car keys. I mean, she could have a television in those things. Have you ever been on set and she just pulled out 4 granola bars from those boobs?
No. She, I don't think, like, when she comes on set, she doesn't, I don't think she has things tucked away. But yeah, she, when I see her being interviewed on the show, I'm like, wow, Angela, look,
that is a whole nother place to store stuff. I mean,
tucked away. Yes.
She's like the walking container store. I mean, it's just like amazing. Shaun, I could talk to you forever. You've had such a fabulous career. And you know what? I want to do another show with you because I want to talk to you about how you've managed women in this business and other female. Have women supported you over the years, or has it been a long climb? Because things are evolving. Now in the podcast world, which again, I wasn't used to in radio because everybody had a radio war. But now we're in this kind of like other women support women, come on my show. Was it, I can't imagine it was like that for you, right? Was it?
Sometimes, yes, I've had great relationships with women who have supported me. I've had, I'm very thankful that I've had women throughout my career who reached back and helped me, gave me some advice. There have been disappointments. There have been women who were in positions of power who were so excited and so thankful to be in the room that they didn't want to rock the boat. They let things, go, bad behavior from men that they didn't check just because they, like I said, they didn't want to rock the boat. They didn't want to, be seen as a person who, maybe they just felt for their jobs. Maybe they just thought, their jobs would be in jeopardy.
Yep.
So yes, I've had both. I've had women who have been great supporters, and then women that I kind of look at and say, you know what, you could have done a better job supporting other women.
Yeah. Oh, Shaun, your career is just getting started. We love you. 90 Day Tell All. Obviously, you can see her on TLC. Your Instagram is it just at Shaun Robinson?
It's MS Shaun Robinson.
What else? Anything else you want to promote? Are the films coming up? Do they have a release date we can promo?
So the films will be out in April. I think it's the 7th, like the 3rd and 4th week in April. So I'm very excited about that. 90 Day Bears All. I want everybody to tune in.
Bears All.
Plus 90 Day Bears All. A new episode premieres every single Monday. We've got so much fun stuff on this show, Sarah. We've got the stuff that you can't air on TV,
yep,
like Brandon and Julia trying to get busy in the car and forgetting that there were cameras around them. We've got, we delve into the relationship of Tariq and Dean and what happened to those two because they were fan favorites on Pillow Talk and they hadn't spoken for a year and a half before we brought them together on the show. And so we're going to dig into that. Brittany and Yazan, they battle it out. Brittany's got some receipts on, she said that Yazan really loved her pictures and now he's pretending like she, is some like hooch out there. And so she's got her receipts. We got Big Ed coming on.
Oh God, another amazing person and character. Yes.
Yes, Big Ed. He plays the piano for us. And then we talk about his relationship with Rose. We got David and Annie, and we show them going to the adult toy store. Like she's walking around like, okay, what is this? And what does that do? And what is this used for? And what is this now? Which is hysterical. A new episode just premiered yesterday. So make sure you go to Discovery Plus to get all this great content. And, it's just a really, really fun show. It's a companion show to Tell All. It's not replacing the Tell All or anything like that, but it's a companion show. So it's really fun. And it's taking people like behind the velvet rope.
Love it.
On the, take you on the red carpet into the VIP room where we've got all these interviews that are just, they're just really, really fun. And it's content you won't see on regular TV. So, so go to Discovery Plus, 90 Day Bears All. It's a really, really fun show, and we hope everybody tunes in.
Shaun Robinson, you're fabulous. Here's to many more fabulous years in the business, and thank you for being on the show. You're awesome.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Bye, hon.